So this is going to be our new writing unit, understanding how to write an argument. It's basically a persuasive essay. You already have your topic. It is the topic that you chose from today's corner activity. With that being said, let's go ahead and understand how we're going to acquire all the information we're going to need for this argument writing that we're going to do. The interesting thing is when you were deciding which corner you were going to go to, you already probably had strong feelings about the topic one way or another. When I told you to turn and talk about the topic, you chose what you said to each other was a starting point of your argument. Some of you, like I said, felt really strong about one thing. Some leaned towards one side or another. And then some of you could go either way. You're kind of wishy-washy. But before you could answer, you have to move from a starting point to a position that is what we call a considered position, one that's researched and developed. The key there is researched and developed. It's not just opinions. That brings us to today's teaching point, and this is one I find fascinating when it comes to writing a persuasive essay. When you're composing an argument, you are not going to collect the evidence to support what you think about the issue. Instead, you will find the evidence that allows you to think through both sides or multiple sides of the argument. For example, we all know I'm a diehard White Sox fan. But if I chose a topic of who's a better team, the White Sox or the Cubs, I am not going to collect evidence based on the White Sox being a better team, which is what I feel. I'm going to look at the Cubs side first. I'm going to take another opposing side to gather evidence about that issue. Remember, you have to collect evidence based on both sides of the issue. So let's get to understanding how to do this. I'm going to show you how to do this first. I'm going to model it for you. But make sure that you have a system for collecting your information or taking notes. I highly recommend using the Post-it Note app, the sticky note app that you have on your iPad, or the Mind Map app. However, if you have another choice that you want to use, knock yourself out. I'm going to show you how I set up my notes so that I collect notes for both sides of the argument. Remember, I am collecting information based on both sides. The side that I choose and then the other side. So here's an example of how I would take my notes. As you can see, I have my topic here, which is chocolate milk in schools. This is the topic that I chose that I'm going to use to show you how I write my argument. You can see that I basically have, it looks like almost a T-chart, right? And on one side I have for, on another side I have against. This could also say pros, this could also say cons. They mean the same thing. As you can see, for under the pros or for the for side, I have that chocolate milk has nutrients, kids drink more flavored milk, and not more fat or calories than regular milk. Now, where did I get all this information? So here's an article that I came across on the internet. Yes, I went to Google and I typed in my topic, and I may have gone ahead and typed in various or different types of research questions. I might have said, is chocolate milk healthy for you? Is chocolate milk good for you? Pros of chocolate milk. The cons of chocolate milk. Why is chocolate milk bad for you? I chose many different types of research questions because I wanted to gather as much information as I could. And I came across this article and I thought I would use it as a sample. Nutrition in Disguise, What the Midwest Dairy Council Has to Say About Chocolate Milk. If you secretly love chocolate milk, you're in for some happy news. Recently, the Midwest Dairy Association released an infomercial that argues chocolate milk is, according to nutritionist Melissa Dobbins, nutrition in disguise. In the infomercial, Ms. Dobbins, who introduces herself as a nutritionist for the Dairy Association and a mom, brings along 3 young friends to help her demonstrate that chocolate milk is a healthy part of a young person's diet. As Ms. Dobbins puts it, the fact is that chocolate and other flavored milks have the same 9 essential nutrients as white milk and a small amount of added sugar compared to the other beverages. Best of all, Because they love the taste, some kids drink more milk when it's flavored. You only have to watch kids in the lunch line to see the truth of what Miss Dobbins says. Given a choice, almost any child will choose chocolate milk over white. We serve 6 or 7 cartons of chocolate for each one of white milk at lunch, says Mrs. Raleigh, a server in a local elementary school cafeteria. In fact, it's pretty much only with breakfast cereal that any kind of kid would choose white milk. What's the attraction of chocolate milk? Well, if you haven't had any for a while, give it a try. You'll have to admit that the creamy, smooth, chocolatey taste is truly delicious. But is it good for you? Miss Dobbins says, yes. Research shows that children who drink flavored milk meet more of their nutrient needs, do not consume more added sugar, fat, and calories, and are not heavier than non-milk drinkers, says Miss Dobbins. So now I got done reading that article. That was fascinating. And what details clearly support chocolate milk? Now remember, I am looking for details at this point that support my position that chocolate milk is good for you. And I think this is a very important one. I guess that kids who drink chocolate milk don't consume more sugar, fat, or calories. And that always seems to be a big argument from people. And that's a very important point. So I notice that it's very interesting and surprising to me. So I'm going to jot down that piece of information. Now that I had that piece of information, I'm going to write down that piece of information on my post-it note, in my mind map, and I'm going to decide which side of the argument that it goes on. This is obviously a side of the argument that is for chocolate milk, so I put it under that category. Now at this point, I still haven't made up my mind as far as which side I'm going to take when I write my essay. At this point, I'm just collecting all the information. I'm gathering my facts. I'm like a detective. If I'm investigating a murder, I can't go in and just assume that someone did it. I need all the facts to prove that they did it. The same thing when I'm writing a quality essay. I have to leave my personal feelings out of it and go based only on the facts because I want to have the strongest argument possible. So let's go ahead and look at a second text. As I'm reading it, I want you to think if it's going to be for or against chocolate milk. Schools around the world serve chocolate milk, and kids love it. On a recent Australian newscast, investigative reporter Chloe Barker interviewed children about chocolate milk. The only time I get chocolate milk is when I go to school. One student told Miss Baker, as her friends nodded. In fact, many children get to have chocolate milk at school, but they get to drink a lot of it there. Some children consume as many as 10 or 15 cartons of chocolate milk in a week at school. Baker noted that it's an out-of-control problem. Chocolate milk has a sky-high sugar content. One tiny carton of chocolate milk has approximately 30 grams of sugar. That is more than a can of soda. And you wouldn't see schools giving kids Coke. In fact, according to the Coca-Cola Company, a mini can, which contains 7.5 fluid ounces of soda, has only 25 grams of sugar. Thus, a small container of chocolate milk has approximately 20% more sugar than soda. So now after I got done reading that, ask yourself, what was the main topic of that paragraph or that story that I just read? What did it really support? And then which side of the argument would it go to? What is it that you would jot down? So here are some sample notes that we can take a look at. If you look over here, you can clearly see that they talked about that some flavored milks have more sugar than a can of soda. And that one can of flavored milk or one small carton of flavored milk can have over 30 grams of sugar. Those were two important facts that I could take away from that story, and I can go ahead and I can include it under my category of a con, against chocolate milk. So you can see how the notes are set up to show both sides of the argument. You know, a lot of people, when they're discussing a topic, They only look at things in one way, and they don't want to hear any other ideas besides their own. That is called being closed minded. Do you know anyone that's like that? Of course, we all do. So you can decide on what kind of thinker you want to be. Do you want to be that closed minded thinker, or do you want to be a global, open minded thinker? Hopefully, you're going to learn that sometimes it's best to study a situation, to gather information from different points of view, and then build a reasonable opinion with evidence. This is the key to life. If you want people to listen to your argument and you want people to change their minds about their position, you have to look at both sides of the issue. You have to build evidence, and you have to form your opinion based on evidence. Building a solid argument takes a lot of work, but we're going to show you those steps to make a strong argument. Today, at the end of reading workshop, we're going to be sharing evidence that we found based on your topic. Today, you are going to begin researching your topic. You are going to look for websites, anything that you can find, books, articles, news articles, and you're going to jot these down in the format that you've chose. There's one thing I want you to remember about every piece of information that you've gathered. I want you to go back and I want you to write down where you got the information. If it was from the Chicago Tribune, write Chicago Tribune. If it was from USA Today, write down it was from USA Today. If it was from a website, write down the website. If it was a video, write video. If you go back earlier in the video to those notes I was showing you from Claire, you will notice at the end of every one of her notes, she wrote the source that she was taking this information from. And that's what you need to do also. Start gathering your information, collecting it, putting together your argument so you can see both sides of the issue, so you can make the best argument possible. Good luck today. Remember, we're sharing at the end of writing workshop today.